Good evening. I'd like to call the May 12th Upper Gwynedd Township Business Meeting to order. This evening, our Vice President, Commissioner Moody, will be joining us with the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Commissioner Moody. Jan, could you do the roll call, please?
Catherine Carter, President.
Here.
Rebecca Moody, Vice President.
Here.
Denise Hall, Commissioner.
Here.
Ms. McNaney, Commissioner.
Here.
Gregory Mall, Commissioner. Can you unmute?
So can Greg unmute? Is that what we're talking?
I need to have a roll call.
Here.
Thank you. Okay. Okay. Megan Weaver, Assistant Township Manager. Lauren Gallagher, Township Solicitor.
Here.
Nicholas Cross, Township Engineer.
Here.
David Duffy, Chief of Police. Brian Shapiro, Finance Director. And it's noted that Township Manager Sandra Zadell is absent.
Thank you. At this time, I'd like to turn the meeting over to Commissioner Hall.
Thank you, President Carter. So as I know many of you are aware, we are in the process of repairing and revitalizing the Sumneytown Pike Bridge over the Wissahickon Creek. This is actually under Sumneytown Pike, so you really aren't familiar with it, except you use it quite frequently. And that is the bridge that has a pedestrian bridge attached to it, which is in front of what used to be Boston Style Pizza and is now Anthony's Pizza, which is delicious. You should try it. And with the revitalization and the renovations, we will be able to have a completely new bridge. We're going to be able to add to the Pico Power Line Trail next to it. And so that pedestrian bridge is no longer needed in that space. So we are delighted to move that bridge further down Sumneytown Pike to serve as a crossing over the Towamencin Creek and thus connect the sidewalk from the Weiss Shopping Mall to the sidewalk in front of Gwynneddale. This is a bridge that the developer of Gwynneddale had promised to its residents almost 40 years ago. So it's long in coming, but we're super excited it will be there. It will add to the connectivity of Upper Gwynedd Township. It will prevent some of our residents from having to walk through the busy Sumneytown Pike. And we realized with this new placement that this was an opportunity to name the pedestrian bridge after a member of our community who is truly a unifier. This is someone who has spent his entire life bringing people of all nationalities and backgrounds and religious beliefs together to work and play and thus learn from each other as well as just to enjoy each other. He has created lifelong friendships and partnerships from the most unlikely pairings through his job as a doctor, but also through his collaborative efforts to found community events and organizations. Specifically, he has been a pediatrician and community leader for over 45 years, founder of the International Spring Festival, focusing on diversity and multiculturalism, a member of numerous community and nonprofit boards, and served as the chief of the medical staff at Abington Lansdale Hospital. He has a long history of volunteer service, sitting on the board of directors for Pearl S. Buck International, United Way, Arcanet, Montgomery County Community College, and the Montgomery County Health Department. He has also been a part of the Advisory Council for the Pan-Asian Senior Services and the Dr. Boston Foundation, and is the founder of the Indo-American Club. He is the recipient of several prestigious awards. He was awarded the Community Service Award from the Indian American Political Affairs Committee, the Person of the Year Award from B'nai B'rith, an international Jewish service organization, the Community Service Award from the North Penn Chamber of Commerce, and the Community Service Award from the Lansdale Jaycees, among so many other awards, including the 2022 MLK Award from Jefferson Lansdale Hospital's MLK Committee and the 2023 Pillar of the Community Award from the Greater Harleysville and the North Penn Senior Services. As you can see, he is truly a human connector who leads by example and is constantly seeking new ways to bring our community together. His bridge will continue his legacy of connecting our community and building bridges between cultures. It is my honor to make a motion to name the pedestrian bridge the Dr. Francis J. Raj Pedestrian Bridge.
We have a motion. Can I have a second?
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Any board comments? Well deserved. We have any public comments? Keep it a secret. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. Congratulations, Dr. J.
Dr. J. Raj, will you come on up and shake our hands?
It's so nice to have so many smiling faces in the audience right now. This is great.
Dr. J, I'm giving you a long distance high five since I'm not in my chair this.
Dr. J. Raj, before you sit down, would you like to say anything? Make sure the
really do
little
not
green
want to
light is
take,
nice and bright.
all your time. I'm sure you have many better things to do. I'm absolutely, amazed. Did not expect that. George, my dear friend, actually. George, you really tricked me. I must say, I'm deeply honored. As you know, my first home in this area when I came here in 1975 was actually in Upper Gwynedd. I wanted you to know that. Since then, I really cannot say enough about this great town and township. I've been a pediatrician here since 1975, and I felt this is an area like the rest of America. We have our own problems, but it's a very, very welcoming town. And I give credit to really everybody, who has been part of my life. And really all of you who have continued to play that role to bridge, like, I think, Denise, what you said. It's we need that bridge as I see, watch TV and read newspapers and so on. We see that as North Penn School District has something like 85 different languages spoken, today. And it is not an easy thing to make that into one country. We cannot have many different countries, within the country. It'll just not work. And that's why, about 36, 37 years back, we have great people here who are continuing that tradition. We started the International Spring Festival. The mission was, there has to be a way as immigrants were coming in. And what I noticed was immigrants were forming their own groups and really almost like an extension of the country they came from, which I felt was not what we, as we saluted the flag, we told the flag that we are in fact one country, one people. And if we do it any other way, that great experiment that George Washington and others started, it's not going to succeed. And I'm eternally grateful, humbled, George, especially a bridge, did you say, Catherine? So it truly means a lot to me and to all our friends, right? Because that's what we have tried to do in the many years that all of us have tried to do in our service to this community. Again, thank you very much, and I did not expect that. Thank you very much. All right?
Sorry, Pam, we think you're great too.
We also would have recognized. Thank you. you all very much.
Thank you.
I hate to take all the smiling faces.
It's okay. Thank you for coming.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you, everybody.
Next up on our agenda, we have our wonderful wastewater treatment plant with their presentation.
All right, my name is Jean Ryan. I am with Barton and LaJudas. I am going to run through this as quickly as possible, but if there are any questions, please feel free to interrupt me as we go through this. So agenda for this presentation, a quick introduction. We're going to go over your current sludge hauling, what the problem with the current setup is, the different alternatives that we looked at, the costs of those alternatives, a couple of funding opportunities, and then recommendations for moving forward. So Upper Gwynedd Township contracted B&L to complete a solids alternatives analysis study for the solids handling at the wastewater treatment plant. Our study included the tasks of data review of the current sludge hauling, current and future design and flow loading, alternatives for the solids handling, preliminary life cycle costs, and then we came up with recommendations, and we submitted this study at the end of March. So here's the 2024 sludge hauling data summary. The chart on the left there shows the days that sludge was hauled during 2024. It also shows the amount of sludge that was hauled. But in total, you guys hauled sludge 300 days in 2024. So basically every day of the week that wasn't a weekend. In total, there was 5.6 million gallons hauled, which equates to about 1.7 million pounds of dry solids. And on average, that works out to be about 15,000 gallons per day, or about 4,700 pounds per day of dry solids. And then your average percent solids was 3.7%, and you had a minimum of 2.6 and a maximum of 5.7. So what's the problem? On the health, sanitation, and security side, Upper Gwynedd Township operations, they're currently impacted by the solids handling process, which can negatively impact the effluent quality, so the water coming out of the wastewater treatment plant. Their wasting is limited by the existing gravity thickener that is there. So the undersized gravity thickener, the maximum hydraulic loading to that gravity thickener is just over 60,000 gallons per day. But currently, you guys waste about 81,500 gallons per day. So you're wasting more than that gravity thickener can handle. You're already overloaded. And that's just on average. You get up to a maximum of 130,000 gallons per day at the higher end of it. So this requires more frequent hauling of sludge, which increases heavy traffic to the wastewater treatment plant and the surrounding neighborhood. Additionally, it limits your ability for growth. If you were to take more wastewater, you would be increasing the amount that was already going to that gravity thickener. And then on the water, energy, and waste considerations, you currently don't actually have any treatment for your solids handling process, which means you're not reducing any of the solid waste. So what comes in goes out. And then compliance with accepted standards, as mentioned, it doesn't provide any operational flexibility. The wastewater treatment operators have to haul basically every day of the week. And this limits the ability of the wastewater treatment plant to make its MPDS permit. So for example, they may not be able to take any more out that day because they've already had 5 truckloads through, and they need to take more out to get higher treatment of the effluent, but they're limited. So that's the problem there. So the alternatives that we looked at doing nothing, which would just be continuing to do what you guys are currently doing. Mechanical thickening, a process called thermal process systems, their ThermAir process, which is an ATAD system. And then we looked at the TPS system and dewatering. So this is a lot of text. I'm going to run through this kind of quickly, but at the end I have a table that kind of summarizes each from like the best ranked per category versus the least ranked per category. So I will go through this quickly, but there is a slide that will summarize this. So the pros of doing nothing is your current disposal rate is locked in for 3 years, and you guys did get a great rate. So that's a positive. You wouldn't have any operational changes, and obviously there's no capital costs associated with continuing as you currently are. The cons of doing this is that your liquid sludge will remain untreated, and then typically untreated sludge is considered a hazardous material, which limits the locations it can be disposed of. The current disposal rate is also largely dependent on local municipalities still accepting your sludge. So you guys currently take to Towamencin for the most part. Delcor is another option, and I believe Pottstown is your third option. So you do have a couple of options, but it requires them to continue to accept your sludge as is. And then, as previously mentioned, there's no reduction of your solids with this current approach of doing nothing. Can you go back one? Sorry. Again, another con is the current infrastructure is undersized. I think an important thing to note about this is you guys are kind of dancing on a little bit of a razor's edge. There was your low was 2%, 2.7% solids to about 5% solids. That was the range that the operators managed to get out of that gravity thickener. The average is 3.7. But if for any reason they weren't able to get 3.7 and they only could get 3.2% moving forward, that's almost an additional 1 million gallons a year that you have to haul. So it's very dependent on them being able to get a high percent solids out of that undersized gravity thickener. Next slide, please. So alternative one, mechanical thickening. The pros of this is it's the lowest capital cost alternative. And then by increasing the percent solids of the primary sludge, thickening to approximately 6%, you would reduce the amount of sludge being hauled from the wastewater treatment plant from about 15,400 gallons per day to 9,500 gallons per day. So a pretty significant decrease in the amount of hauling that would be required. You would also be able to convert your existing gravity thickener to a sludge storage tank, which would provide some sludge storage for your operators. It would provide up to about 6 days of storage, so they would have a little bit of that operational flexibility. So those days that they have to waste more, they would actually be able to do it. Cons of this, it's still not treated, so it's still considered a hazardous material. And then again, it's the same thing. Your disposal sites are limited, and you don't have any reduction of your solids. Alternative two is the TPS system. So this system, one of the pros of it is it would produce a Class A sludge under the 40 CFR regulation. This means that technically under current regulation, that sludge could be land applied. So it opens up the number of sites that you could take it to. It also reduces the amount of sludge that you're hauling. It reduces the amount of solids as well. Typically, they could get at least 50% removal, so about half the solids that you currently haul. This system comes with odor control, so it does protect the surrounding community for any, foul odors. And one benefit of that is you could also expand that odor control to other problem areas of the plant if any have been identified in order to get, a more pleasant environment to the surrounding community. Cons, there's no real reduction in liquid hauling beyond what you get with a mechanical thickener. It is a higher capital cost, and it does have higher electric costs than just straight mechanical thickening. One thing you can possibly do to offset some of those costs is that there is some potential with the TPS system to capture the heat that is generated during the system or during the process, and then you can reuse that heat within the wastewater treatment plant. So that is an opportunity for a little bit of green infrastructure involvement. Alternative three, TPS plus dewatering. So the benefits are the same as TPS, but the final step of it is you basically produce a cake. And by producing a cake, you're limiting the amount of hauling even further. So rather than hauling liquid away from your site, you're going to be hauling a dumpster full of what essentially kind of looks like dirt. Again, this alternative has the same improved operational flexibility as well. It lets the operators actually run the plant within the parameters that it's supposed to be run within, and you do get that Class A biosolid. And then the cons for this one, obviously, is it is the highest capital cost, and then it does have the highest electrical costs But again, there's that same potential mitigation. You could potentially reuse some of the heat. And then there's also potential to look at using different mixers for the system as well. So this is the summary table that I promised. So this kind of shows the main issues, and then it ranks 1 is best and 4 is worst in terms of the different processes that we looked at. So for example, do nothing. Obviously, capital cost, it's your best option because you're not putting any money into it, but it doesn't really provide any benefit for anything else. There's a lot on, on this slide here. This shows the current rates and loading and the future rates and loading. So what we did with current rates and loading is I looked at what you're currently taking away from your wastewater treatment plant in terms of solids. Future rates and loading looks at what you may take away in the future if Upper Gwynedd were to grow based on the stuff that was in your 2040 comprehensive planning and everything else. It also looks at potentially if Merck were to send more flow to you guys. So that's the difference there. It also looks at, with your current rates, it looks at that locked in fee that you got, which was about 8.5 cents per gallon versus the higher end of what you guys received on the bids, which was closer to 15 cents per gallon. So those are the main differences there. We calculated the total net present value for each of those, and then we also calculated the return of interest. It is important to note, though, on the return of interest, it's not a net profit that I use to make that calculation because you're not going to actually profit from this unless you were bringing in outside sludge, which is not something that was considered. It would be the savings that you get in your O&M every year. Funding opportunities, this is just a list of the different funding opportunities that are available out there. It's mostly through Penvest and PADCED. These are grants. You guys have done DCED grants before, and then local share account as well. And so recommendations and next steps, at a minimum, based on the net present value and the ROI and everything else, you guys should consider the installation of alternative 1. It will reduce your O&M. It has the lowest net present value. It has the highest return of interest. And it does provide operational flexibility to the wastewater treatment plant. If you're looking at options beyond just strictly cost, then alternative 3 is the most beneficial selection because it adds additional operational flexibility. It makes your product that you're producing becomes Class A and it's no longer considered hazardous. And it also would reduce the truck traffic through the area. So it improves just the general quality of the roadways, that bridge that the wastewater treatment plant has leading into it and everything else. And it has the lowest yearly O&M costs as well. And then in terms of next steps, if you guys decide to move forward with an option, next steps you would want to refine the existing or the current cost estimates. So the cost estimates shown on that previous slide are very high level cost estimates. They use a 2 times installation factor, and it also has a 30% contingency. This is because it was just a study rather than any actual design being put into it. And another thing is with grant applications, if you're further along in design, they tend to look a little better as well. So that would be the recommendation in terms of next steps. That is it. Any questions? I know I went through that quickly, but I didn't want to drag on for too long with that presentation.
I have a question about the electricity.
Yes.
If the wastewater treatment plant, presently, you're saying that if they, for lack of a better understanding, you just plug it into whatever they have already.
Yes.
If they were to upgrade the electricity, would that help to reduce the electricity that you're talking about?
So it would help reduce the electrical burden of like the new system itself. It wouldn't necessarily reduce the electrical burden of the wastewater treatment plant. So you could exempt, for example, that heat capture I'm talking about. Obviously we'd have to look into it, but at the very minimum, it could heat the new building that would be associated with this piece of equipment. It could potentially heat another building or two, depending on the amount of heat loading you can get off of it.
Okay.
What is the useful life of this equipment, and how much maintenance would be required? What costs associated with that look like?
So in terms of useful life on the equipment, 20 years for most of that equipment. It would probably last longer with proper upkeep. It's mostly pumps, believe it or not. It's pumps and a few pieces of monitoring equipment, which those would probably be closer to like 5 years, like ORP probes and DO probes and whatnot, instrumentation devices. And then, yeah, the rest of the system is mainly pumps. The biofilter, so the air, the odor control is actually a stone media, so that doesn't need to be replaced very frequently at all. So yeah, does that answer your question?
Yes, it does.
Okay,
Are you going to give us those slides?
I can. Yeah,
Did you?
I sent them to Megan, so she has
Okay.
them, so she can distribute those too.
Yeah, please,
All of the
Megan.
information that is on these slides was also in the report. I did send the report. I'm not sure if it went out to everybody. It is a very long report, so I wouldn't blame you if you didn't look at it. But it is all in there as well.
How often does the classification change for hazardous or non-hazardous material? Like Class A material, I mean, what is the likelihood that that changes at some point in the future to hazardous?
So the only thing I will say on that is really going to depend on PFAS regulation and whether or not land application will go away. But in terms of Class A, so with sludge, there's Class A sludge, there's Class B sludge, and that's it. And then there's no class sludge. So you currently have no class. Class A is the highest you can get.
Highest as in best?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So they may change that in the future depending on how everything goes with current, with the PFAS. I know that I'm not going to tell you that there's not concerns about land application of sludges because that is stuff that's being looked into. But I can tell you before that, it hasn't changed in years.
Any questions from the public? Yes.
Just one question. I think it was answered.
Can you come up to the table, to this microphone here? Thank you.
Greg Landis on behalf of Merck. Do you see any other emerging regulations coming that would point toward one of the options being preferred?
So I will say that with the TPS system, and this was on the slides, but I kind of breezed over it, which you would probably appreciate being from Merck. The TPS system is actually shown to break down pharmaceuticals, and it is also shown to be, it has the ability to also kill antimicrobial resistant bacteria, which that is something that wastewater treatment plants, they're really focusing on. I don't know that it's going to be regulation anytime in the near future, but they did just put a couple $100 million of studies into AMR, which is antimicrobial resistant bacteria at wastewater treatment plants, because it is a hotspot for that bacteria to develop and be concentrated.
Which option was that?
That's the alternatives 2 and 3, the ones that include the TPS system.
Alternative, correct me if I'm off from your previous, alternative 3 includes alternative 2.
Yes. Yep. So they're kind of all like steps. So alternative 1 is like the first step of the process. If you do alternative 2, you're also getting alternative 1. And if you're doing alternative 3, you're getting all of them. So that's kind of a scaling step thing, which is also a benefit of if you move forward with, for example, if you looked at alternative 3 and funding isn't available, so you really don't want to invest that kind of money at the time being, that's okay. You just focus on one portion of that design, which would be like the mechanical thickener, and you'll see like the immediate benefit of reduced O&M costs and reduced hauling to the wastewater treatment plant.
But the only one that does the cake is alternative 3.
Correct. Yep.
Megan, I have a question. So this would be something that we would be in discussion about during budget time? Or this is something that needs to be talked about and possibly the budget amended now?
There is nothing that would need to be decided on tonight, but it could be considered at your June meeting if you choose to do so.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Susan Baker went. So with the sludge, and you have different categories.
Yes.
And the hazardous, we send that to someplace else.
Yes.
And how do they treat that?
So I don't actually happen to, Dan, do you happen to know what Taliesin has?
Yeah, right now they're dewatering and they go to landfill.
Okay. So They make it not hazardous.
So if they're only dewatering, they're actually not treating it any further. And so the landfill is taking a hazardous material.
So if we don't have hazardous anymore, then that's a plus
Yes.
for the environment.
Correct. You're correct. Yes. So if you went to like a class A, for example, like a farmer could come and collect that material and then take it to his field. It doesn't even have to go to a landfill.
That's what I was looking
Okay,
at.
yes.
Rather than having somebody, we're sending out hazardous materials, whether we keep it here or move it to someplace
Mhm.
else. We're
Yep.
sending hazardous materials
Yes.
that cannot be used anywhere and just
Correct.
pollute the surround wherever it's going. Okay.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right. Thanks.
Next up on our agenda is Stop the Bleed presentation.
Good evening, everybody. Commissioners, first, we'd like to thank you for giving us the opportunity and the support to initiate this program. To those of us who are in the crowd and or paying attention, Fire Marshal McCann came back from a training conference in which he learned about different tragedies that have been occurring throughout the nation and ways that we can start gaining help as first responders. So we met with our local EMS assistant chief. I had to check the title there. And the fire marshal and I, and we came together, which is pretty unique in general for these three entities to work together on a project. Normally it would be one or the other, but for the three of us to come up with this idea together, it's new to the area. So we're trying to work together to do something that we can involve the public with and make everybody have the opportunity to empower themselves, to help themselves and others in the event of any type of significant tragedy. We can go to the next slide.
So I appreciate you giving us the time to be able to talk about this. I think that it's important when we consider Stop the Bleed, the real reality behind bleeding, right? When it comes to cardiac arrest, there's been a really good presence when it comes to CPR training, right? Because in 1960, they came up with CPR training, they've pushed it out, and they literally provide that training to hundreds of millions of people annually. Bleeding, critical bleeding specifically, is something that happens more frequently than not. And as a society today, we're sort of drawn into the violence around this, but that's not what this is about. Life-threatening bleeding happens in so many different places. We see it in the ambulance, obviously, all the time. This is an opportunity for us to help the public prepare themselves. So when we talk about the reality of bleeding, it's important for people to understand the context of what we're talking about, right? The national average when it comes to how fast an ambulance will respond to your house is roughly 8.5 minutes. I am proud to say with VMSC EMS, we are serving Upper Gwynedd in roughly 7 minutes that we're able to get on scene when there's a call for service, which is better than what the national average is. But the problem with it is this: bleeding happens fast. And when I say it evolves quickly, your cardiac stroke volume, the amount of blood your heart pumps every minute is about 5 liters. Women have between 5 and 6 liters, men have 6 to 7 liters. Your heart works overdrive when it comes to pumping blood. The problem is, if you end up having an injury to your brachial artery, which is up in your arm, in 5 minutes, you can bleed out. You can exsanguinate in 5 minutes. Even our best times with 7 minutes isn't enough to get here to be able to address and care for the residents. If it's a femoral transection down in your thigh, 3 minutes. Happens incredibly quick that people can perish from difficult situations like that. And please do not fall back into the mindset that this is just violence. The worst transected brachial artery I had was a gentleman who accidentally put his arm through a window. Fortunately, someone was on scene, put a tourniquet on him. He probably would have died had it not been for that. The worst femoral transection I had was a motorcycle accident. Again, had it not been for a tourniquet, by the time I got there, he would have been dead. We are looking to be able to create time. As a paramedic, the 2 pieces of currency I operate in, blood and time. Keep the blood in the body, give me as much time as possible to get them to a surgeon. This tool gives us the opportunity to do both of those things. So I think it's an incredible time to be able to reach out to the public and connect them with tools and training to do that. So I want to allow Fire Marshal McCann to talk a little bit more about what it looks like and what the equipment is.
So the equipment that we are talking about today and that we are looking to use going forward are these bleeding control kits. When we first started this idea, we tried to reinvent the wheel and figure out what can we do to make our own kits. We found this company, North American Rescue, that pre-makes these kits with a bunch of materials that don't expire. So they're good for as long as you have them. And they actually come in these packages and these cabinets that are very similar to what we do with AEDs. In our township building, we have 2 different AED stations. Both are in a cabinet. As soon as you open the cabinet, it's right there. That's what we're looking to do with these kits as well. Inside of these cabinets, there's a bag. Each bag has 6 to 8 individually sealed bleeding control kits. They have tourniquets, gauze, trauma dressings, gloves, so whoever's providing care can stay a little bit safe as well. And it just really does come in a complete package. It's visible and it allows us to be more present in the public, and we're hoping to get these in a number of different locations.
So as Assistant Chief Detweiler mentioned, the big part of this isn't about focusing on a tragedy, but instead empowering people in an emergency situation to help the medics before they arrive, to help the police before they arrive. So our goal is to put these into public places, much the same as AEDs, and in this case also fire extinguishers. So the first one, with the Commissioner's blessings and support, we posted right outside here, outside the meeting room. It becomes accessible to the police side, the township side, anything occurring in the meeting room here. But also on top of that, we have a very large, the largest park in the township here. Children can fall and get hurt. Okay, there are cars driving through this area. There are animals out here that could hurt someone. Not to scare anyone, but things happen. Not, we don't have anything of record, but we're trying to be prepared for when something like that happens. So our goal by having this kit prominently posted right here in the meeting room is people can see it, people can know where it is. We're then going to also try and help people learn about what's in there and how to use it. This isn't for the police necessarily to be the ones to grab and go help. This is for the person that is contemplating, what can I do to help, potentially, instead of taking pictures or video of it. But go get this and get it to where it's needed. That way, once it's there, when the police arrive, if that person's not comfortable using those tools, at least they can get them there. There's going to be a nurse, a doctor, a good citizen, somebody who came through the training to be able to help us. So we had this first one that is hung, and now our plan is to move forward to other public spaces where we're going to be more capable of bringing more people involved and giving them the opportunity to be assistance to us in any type of emergency.
So as Officer Whistler and Fire Marshal McCann explained, the equipment is incredible. Like it's life-saving equipment. It gets used every day in EMS and law enforcement and in the fire service. But without training, it is nothing, right? We can have all these wonderful tools, but if you don't know how to use them, it doesn't get us where we need to be. So Stop the Bleed is a great training program that came out of the American College of Surgeons. Came out in 2015, so it's got about 10 years worth of delivery. Came as a result of the creation of the Hartford Consensus, which was a response to the Sandy Hook tragedy. It was a great opportunity for the medical community, the law enforcement community, and a bunch of other emergency services to be able to come together and say, what can we do to train the public to best position them to avoid unnecessary loss of life? And that's where this program came out, this Stop the Bleed sort of program. The wonderful thing about this is we are able, as law enforcement, fire service, and paramedics, we're able to provide this training for no cost to the residents of the community. We are able, according to the Academy of, or the American College of Surgeons, to be able to deliver the program that they created, which I think is phenomenal because it is a proven curriculum. It's able to be delivered in about an hour, and there is nothing overly gory or terrifying about it. The nice thing is the people who really want to get in touch with what it is will provide a 30-minute after the training, optional hands-on, where they're able to pull tourniquets out, put tourniquets on, see how they work, put their hands on the equipment and utilize it. I really do believe that this is the type of thing that is easily deployable. We've taught school teachers, we've taught business executives. This has been taught in so many different areas. Having the opportunity now to provide this to the public is huge. And we would like to start beginning in June, on June 10th, delivering it right here for whoever in the community wants to be able to do this and provide them with the critical training that they need. And then the hope would be that again in October, we can do the exact same thing and potentially get on a regular schedule where we're out here training and helping to prevent, or at least help the community prevent unnecessarily death when it comes to bleeding.
And then just to kind of wrap this up a little bit, this is where Stop the Bleed has come from in the township already and where we see it going. Last year, our township public works, parks and rec, and wastewater employees all went through Stop the Bleed training. John, I think, actually delivered the training to them, and they were all issued individual bleeding control kits. So it is something that our employees are already practicing, especially our laborers. Starting with the township, we have our first kit that we've just mounted. We're hoping to add more to most of our municipal buildings. Just off the top of the head, the pool is one where we're looking. Any place where there's large crowds gathering, we look to have these kits. Another exciting thing for the three of us, we actually got Corpus Christi Catholic School to kind of be our pilot program with this. So they're actually going to be putting at least one of these cabinets in their school, and hopefully we're getting some of their teachers trained on this as well. A little exciting stuff about this for us is I believe there's now 13 states in the country that actually require some sort of Stop the Bleed kit in either government buildings or schools. It's not in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania yet, but this looks like we're actually trying to get a little bit ahead of the curve. So we're really excited about this initiative. It's been really great to work with all three branches of public safety so far in the township, and looking forward to getting out in the public a little bit, and want to thank you guys again for all of your support.
Thank you. Are there any questions from the board? Any questions from the public?
No questions.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Congratulations, and we look forward to the training.
Awesome. Thank you. I need the front center.
Next up on the agenda, number 7, Lauren, were there any executive sessions?
Yes, the board met in executive session earlier this evening to discuss matters of potential litigation.
Thank you. No one signed up for public comments, so we'll move on to number 9. I have a motion to approve the consent items A through J. Can I have a second?
So moved.
We have a motion and a second. We have any board comments? Any public comments? Dan, will do a roll call.
President Carter,
Aye.
Vice President Moody,
Aye.
Commissioner Hall,
Aye.
Commissioner McNaney,
Aye.
Commissioner Mall.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. Number 10, I'd like to make a motion to approve the proposed vesting schedule for the non-uniform defined contribution plan. Do we have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Do we have any board comments? Any public comments? All in favor, say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Motion passed unanimously. Number 11, I'd like to make a motion to approve the contract with Boyle Construction Management for feasibility analysis for Phase 2 of the building renovations. Can I have a second?
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. We have any board comments? Any public comments? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. I'd like to make an announcement for the summer meeting dates, June 9th, July 14th, and August 11th. Just reminding our community there will be only one meeting each month in June, July, and August. There is nothing under Vice President Moody's section, zoning and planning. So at this time, I'd like to turn it over to Commissioner Hall.
Thank you, President Carter. Thank you. Paul?
Go ahead.
I'm sorry, I saw nothing under Hall on my agenda, so I thought you said Hall.
No. Denise has some announcements.
Sorry, Greg. 2 minutes. I just wanted to announce a couple things from public safety. One is that our fire department, our Upper Gwynedd Township Fire Department number 80, is hosting their annual golf outing on July 14th, the Cedar Brook Country Club. You can check out their website or go on their Facebook page to get information about that. It's just a really great way to support our men and women in red who, in case you weren't aware by now, it's a good time to remind everybody that there are 100% volunteers. So this is a wonderful way that you can show some support as well as have some fun golfing. And then the second item I wanted to share is that this week is National Police Week. So if you see any of our police officers, please thank them for their service to our township. And I just wanted to remind everyone that our police obviously do so much to keep us safe, but they do so much behind the scenes as well within the fabric of the community. I went and looked on their Facebook page today, and I was just scrolling through to see what kind of events they're doing right now, because it's hard to keep track of how much they do. And some of the things that they are doing right now are they participated in a drug take-back day. They recently assisted the high school in educating students about the consequences of driving impaired. For prom season, they have a presentation with some first responders, and they, I know they take part of that every year. That was something that they just did. They are part of something called the North Penn Area Police Athletic League, or PAL. They recently had a movie theater event that they attended. They recently attended an HOA board meeting at the Reserve. The Reserve is a development for seniors, and they are really great supporters of our police department, and they brought Fury and Gunner, our two K9 police dogs, to speak with them and some of their residents. And so that's, in a very short amount of time, they're doing all that in addition to keeping us all safe on a daily basis. So if you see a police officer, please give them a hug. Say thank you for your service. No, Chief doesn't like the hug part? Okay. Maybe a high five. Maybe a high five? Okay. Anyway, thank you, President Carter.
Thank you, Commissioner Hall. Now I'll turn it over to you, Greg.
Thank you, President Carter. The only thing on my agenda, agenda item 13, making a motion to approve the contract with Michael Baker International for the engineering of the Liberty Bell Trail and Brook Parkway.
We have a motion. Can I have a second?
So moved.
We have a motion and a second. Any board comments? I have one comment that I'm very excited that is getting started. Any public comments? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. Wastewater treatment, we already had our presentation. Now, under other business, I'd like to make a motion to approve the April and May open invoices. Can I have a second?
So moved.
Do we have any board comments? Sorry, we have a motion and a second. Any board comments? Any public comments? Deanna, we do a roll call?
President Carter,
Aye.
Vice President Moody,
Aye.
Commissioner Hall,
Aye.
Commissioner McNaney,
Aye.
Commissioner Mull.
Aye.
Thank you. Motion passes unanimously. Number 15, I'd like to make a motion to approve the April and May 2025 paid invoices. Can I have a second?
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Any board comments? Any public comments? Deanna, can you do a roll call?
President Carter,
Aye.
Vice President Moody,
Aye.
Commissioner Hall,
Aye.
Commissioner McNaney,
Aye.
Commissioner Mull.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. Thank you again. Congratulations to Dr. J. Raj. And when will we know when the bridge?
2026.
20?
26.
Oh, okay.
We have a little bit of time.
Yes, we have some time. Thank you, everyone, for coming out in support of everything. Congratulations for our police officers and Stop the Bleed. Wonderful presentation for the wastewater treatment plant. And with that being said, this meeting is adjourned.